Hello, and thank you so much for coming to hang out with me tonight. I've got a really fun project today where we're going to take patterns and we're going to have 3 ways to use patterns to add character to our background. So the first way that we are going to make our patterns is to use a scoring tool. On my paper trimmer, I have a cutting blade and I have a scoring blade. So my top one is my cutting blade, my bottom one is the scoring blade. And I like to use my paper trimmer when I do any kind of scoring marks just because I find it's easier. I've got measurements there. I can hold down that little flap and my paper doesn't move about. You could also use a scoring board like that one that I just shared with you there. Either of them will work nicely. So if you don't have dies, embossing folders, or any other way, you can go ahead and score your paper. Now, if you haven't got any of these kind of tools, then you can also use a ruler, either like a bone folder or the back of like a butter knife, the non-sharp part of the butter knife. And if you just pop your cardstock on top of a stack of papers, then you can kind of score and it will indent into that as well. So there are ways that you can get around it if you don't have the right tools. Now I am scoring at roughly 1/2 inch or 1 centimeter, depending on what you use. And I am making those score marks all the way across my cardstock, then flipping my cardstock the other direction and making the score marks that way. And then I've just got a fun grid. You could obviously do this on an angle as well. So you could go for diagonal versions. You could just have one set of lines. You don't have to do crisscross and have boxes. But I like how this looks. So whatever you feel like you fancy or whatever you feel like you have time for, then go ahead and make some score marks and you can get some beautiful patterns. So the one on the left is where I used about 1 centimeter or 1/2 inch. And the one on the right is about 2 centimeters or 3/4 inch. So you just get different looking patterns depending on how big you want your squares. Now the stamp I'm using is this Gina K one, the Doodle Garden background is my new favorite. So you probably can see it a lot. I've become a little bit obsessed with it. I love the floral pattern of it. So I've been using it in a few videos now. I'm going to stick my card panel down inside my stamp platform. And then I'm going to place my stamp over top of it. And I did cut these panels down before I started creating. So my panels are 1 centimeter smaller than my card base. That way they fit my stamp and I can put a layer behind them, a matting layer behind them. I'm using my Lisa Horton Crafts inks tonight, and I'm going to use on the white the matte ink blendings. So these are like a dye-based ink, so they're water reactive. They're very, very similar to distressed oxides. They've got that kind of matte finish to them. And I'm going to stamp a few colors down. Now you could do all one color. I just felt like I wanted kind of an array of colors. I don't know why, I just felt like that's what I wanted. So I'm inking up my stamp. I'm being very careful not to overlap my inks because I do not want green in my purple and purple in my pink, vice versa. So I've got a blending brush as well, and I'm going to kind of use the blending brush to kind of smear those colors a little bit together. And then that way I'm not smearing those colors together with my ink pad. So I'm just kind of going along the lines where all the colors touch, and then that kind of gives them a bit more of a blended look on my actual project. And I'm inking up about twice for each of my panels. So on the white ones, I've got my matte blending inks. And then on the black ones, I'm going to use my interference inks. So I don't know if you've seen these before on my channel, but they are my favorite ink pads in the world. I've never seen anything like it on the craft market. Lisa Horton is unreal. Like she is so clever. These are basically ink pads that have mica powder kind of stuff in them, and they change colors. On the cover of the ink pad, it shows 2 colors. So on the left will be how it looks on white cardstock, and on the right is how it looks on black cardstock. So it's such fun ink to play with, and it gives you so many more options because now you can stamp on dark colored cardstock and make just as bright and beautiful colored designs. So I'm thrilled with these ink pads. I'm going to be buying more. I want to get the whole collection. I think I've got about 10 of them at the moment, and I want all of them, and she has re-inkers as well. So that's so exciting. So this is my card panel when I've done stamping. You can see the beautiful colors, and they are totally different to what they looked like on the ink pad cover. So for my next one, we are going to do reverse embossing folders to make our indentations. So we're going to take any embossing folder that you've got, and a 3D embossing folder is best because you get deeper indentations. We're going to run the cardstock through your die cutting machine, whatever you've got, exact same as you would normally do. And I lost the footage here because I forgot to hit record, so I didn't show you me running it through the big shot and then pulling out and putting it in the stamp platform, but I've got it upside down. So the bumpy side is normally the side that you're working with on an embossing folder, and I am using the back side of that. So I'm using the flat side, and that's what we're using to kind of make our stamped image stand out more. So when I pick it up and show you here, you can see that it's indented, and how gorgeous is that? So you can take your embossing folders, you can use the other side of the embossing folders, and you can stamp on top, and you'll still see your stamped image through that and get a beautiful design. Now this one here, this embossing folder, was the same pretty much on the back as it was the front. I didn't pick a very good one, but I wanted to use it anyways and show you that you could use whatever embossing folders you've got in your stash, and you will still be able to see that beautiful pattern shine through the pattern from the embossing folder as well. So I find this a much quicker way of getting a nice detailed look onto the back of your cardstock than using like a scoreboard or your paper trimmer. Plus you get the fun effect of having all different kinds of patterns and designs. For the third one, we are going to emboss with dies. So this is something I've actually never ever done. And I have had like the plates that you need for your machine for ages, and I've just never gone for it and done it. So on the left, I've got sort of a more focal point die, and on the right, I've got like a panel background die. And I thought it'd be fun to play with both of them and share with you what they kind of look like. So I have 2 of these mats. I don't know how I've accumulated 2, but I clearly had an idea in my head that I wanted to do this technique at some point and then never used it, and then bought another one forgetting that I had one. So I've got the one from Craftelier, which is a really good price point. I will do my best to link everything I can down below for you in the description box if you want to find anything. So the one from Craftelier is nice and big, fits the whole entire plate in my Big Shot. And then I also have the Sizzix one that is designed for the Big Shot, which does give you exactly the sandwich that you need to use in order to run it through a Big Shot. Craftelier does have the same kind of sandwiches on the back of their instructions as well, so it depends what you want to use. I like the fact the Craftelier one actually fits the whole entire plate, but the Sizzix one does fit what I need it to fit. So I'm just going to use the Sizzix one because it felt slightly different thickness than the Craftelier one, only like the tiniest bit, and it had the instructions, and I've got a Big Shot, so that's why I'm using this one. But there are lots on the market. They are like called an embossing plate, I believe. So easy to get a hold of and not overly expensive, to be honest. So I'm going to take my piece of cardstock, I'm going to stick my die on top of it and make sure that the embossing plate, the squishy rubber mat, is underneath the die. And it's really important. And then I'm going to do the sandwich as per the instructions, which I didn't do here because I forgot the bottom plate. So I'm going to go ahead and put that bottom plate in and then run it through my Big Shot. And I was thinking there's no way this isn't going to die cut out because these dies are sharp. But how gorgeous is this? It just embossed it. That's all it did. It took my dies and turned it into embossing. And it is stunning because it is really detailed, almost more so than a 3D embossing folder. And it almost perforated as well, so it gave such gorgeous detail. So this is another way that we can kind of add on some of those elements to create that nice, beautiful background panel. Now for this one, I'm just running it through in the center, and then I've got this beautiful pattern on the center. Now the back side is a lot more dull and matted, so we are going to use the front side, unlike using the embossing folders where we use the back. I'm going to use the front of these and stamp down on them. The effect isn't as dramatic, but it's still nice and beautiful, and it gives you more options. You can take all those dies out your stash and give yourself more options. You could take dies like hearts, butterflies, flowers, and you could just lay them all over your card panel and run it through, and you will get all those images pressed into your paper. So there's so many options if you have one of those embossing plates to create these kind of fun backgrounds as well. Now I mucked up here, but I wanted to share that with you. I thought I would do a fun, like trace the die and do a circle on the inside, but then the pen leaked all underneath the die and made a mess. So I thought, oh, I'll die cut out the circle that kind of came with it, but it doesn't actually cover that up. So I don't know what I'm doing this panel yet, but I'm going to put it to the side. I was really annoyed. I wanted to kind of highlight that center bit, and I did a really poor job of it. So I think I will get out my other circle dies and I'll cut myself like a little frame that will cover up the frame that I made with the pen. But I wanted to share with you that I kind of mucked up that one, so that's to the side. I'll deal with it later. We're going to turn the other ones into cards. I do have 2 panels that I haven't finished yet into cards, but I started making them. I just kind of ran out of time. I'm off on a crafty weekend away with my girlfriends this weekend. So excited, going down to Essex for a scrapbooking retreat. I don't normally scrapbook, but I'm trying because I've got a lot of photos and I'd really like to get them into some albums. So here are my card panels all finished and ready to be turned into cards. I love the black ones the most. I love how stunning that looks. Now for all my cards, I pretty much use these dies here. I use the Thank You from Spellbinders, Paper Rose Studios foliage, and then these giant surprise creation layering dies. Now I don't know if any of these are still available. If they are, I'll put them down in the description box for you, but I think they might all not be available anymore. But I love how these turned out. So I simply took 2 of the dies and die cut out the middle parts that I had that like empty space. And then I kind of popped it all back together, popped the thank you up on some foam, added some Nuvo drops, which will dry clear. They're kind of like a cloudy look right now, but once they're fully dry, they're completely clear and just sparkly. I die cut out some of those leaves out of the black cardstock that I had in my stash, and I love it. Now here's that bit that I took out the other card, and I somehow managed to line it up perfectly with the pattern underneath. Well, impressed with myself on that one. I then took some vellum and popped it behind that black panel. So I die cut out the same shape again, put the vellum behind it, so that kind of muted the middle a little bit because it was quite hectic and bright and chaotic. Used my holographic cardstock again and added those Nuvo drops in there. And that's how I kind of finished off that card. And I popped up the thank you with some foam tape again as well. The holographic card is gorgeous and stunning. A lot of you constantly ask me for it. I always try and put it in the description box for you. There is a discount code with the paper company I buy it from if you buy for the first time with them. So make sure to use that code. It will get you 20% off. And here's my last card. I did the exact same thing again that I did on the first card, where I used the 2 dies together to kind of give an empty space, and then I butted it up against the left hand side and left the top and the right and the bottom all nice and showing that holographic card. I didn't bother putting any Nuvo drops on this one because I thought it looked good as it was. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial today. I hope you give it a go as well. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I've had people telling me that actually they're not subscribed anymore and they were subscribed. So if you don't mind checking, that would be amazing because you might have been kicked off my subscription for some weird reason. Take care, have a fabulous weekend, and I'll see you when I get back. Bye!